Welcome to Nucleus, the podcast covering America's top leaders in business and culture. I'm your host, Tripwire. Today on the show, one of the most influential graphic designers of our time, a partner at the legendary Pentagram design firm, and recipient of the AIGA's highest honor, the AIGA Medal. Listen, I need to tell you about someone who proved that the fastest decisions come from the slowest preparation. And no, I'm not talking about some Silicon Valley bro who moved fast and broke things. I'm talking about a 77-year-old woman who sketched one of the world's most recognizable logos on a napkin in about 3 minutes flat, then had to explain to a room full of executives why something that took less time than their coffee order was worth 7 figures. Paula Scher, principal at Pentagram, first female partner in the firm's history, the designer behind Citibank's identity, the Public Theater's explosive visual language, the Metropolitan Opera, the Museum of Modern Art, and literally hundreds of album covers from the 70s that are probably sitting in your parents' basement right now. She's been shaping how we see culture for over 50 years. And here's the thing nobody tells you about her superpower. It's not natural talent or divine inspiration. It's compound interest, but for your brain. See, when Cher sketched that city logo in minutes during a first meeting, the clients were baffled. How could something developed so quickly possibly be the answer? Her response has become legendary in design circles. It took me a few seconds to draw it, but it took me 34 years to learn how to draw it in a few seconds. That's not a humble brag. That's the entire game revealed. While everyone's obsessing over rapid iteration and minimum viable products, Cher is showing us something more valuable. Prepare so extensively that execution becomes effortless. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind to 1991, because that's when things got interesting. Cher joined Pentagram as its first female principal at age 43. For those not in the design world, that's like being the first woman partner at Goldman Sachs, except with more turtlenecks and fewer difficult personalities. Pentagram operates as this unusual partnership structure, about 20 principals across multiple offices who independently run their own teams and client relationships while sharing profits, resources, and the brand. It's part design firm, part medieval guild, part competitive collaboration experiment. And for Cher's first 3 years there, she was miserable. Not because of the partnership, because of the work. She was landing corporate clients who wanted safe, conservative, committee-approved design. The kind of stuff that looks great in a boardroom presentation and immediately forgettable everywhere else. She was producing competent work that paid well, but felt creatively dead. Classic trap, right? You get successful enough that you can't afford to take risks anymore. Then, 1994 happened. The Public Theater in New York needed a new identity. George C. Wolfe, the theater's new director, wanted something that matched the energy of downtown theater. Raw, diverse, urgent, alive. Most designers would have gone classical. Maybe some elegant serif typography, sophisticated color palette, very, we are serious artists doing serious work. Cher went the opposite direction. She created an identity system using dense, overlapping typography in screaming colors, posters that looked like visual manifestations of urban energy and cultural collision, letters crashing into each other, words stacked and layered until they became texture, colors that vibrated. The whole thing felt like standing on a New York street corner during rush hour while someone's blasting salsa music and taxi horns are going off, and 3 different conversations are happening simultaneously. The design world lost its mind. It won every major award. More importantly, it fundamentally changed how cultural institutions thought about their visual identities. Before Cher's public theater work, museums and performing arts organizations defaulted to conservative classical visual languages. After, they realized cultural institutions could have visual identities as dynamic as their content. That one project changed everything. Suddenly, she wasn't just another pentagram principal doing corporate identity work. She was the designer for cultural institutions that wanted bold visual transformation. The Metropolitan Opera called. The Museum of Modern Art called. Jazz at Lincoln Center, New York City Ballet, the High Line. Everyone wanted that Scher treatment.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Here's what's brilliant about that move, strategically speaking. She consciously narrowed her positioning. She started turning down lucrative corporate work that didn't fit her new focus. That sounds insane, right? You finally break through and your response is to serve fewer clients? But that narrow positioning created something broader services never could. She became the undisputed expert in one specific thing. Michael Porter's competitive strategy framework calls this differentiation through focus. When you're the obvious choice for a specific type of client, you get pricing power and client self-selection. They come to you already convinced, not shopping around. But here's where it gets really interesting for anyone building a career or leading a team. Scher's rapid execution, that napkin sketch, those quick design decisions, isn't recklessness disguised as confidence. It's accumulated pattern recognition meeting specific problems. She'd spent decades at that point studying typography, Russian Constructivism, Swiss modernism, Victorian wood type, urban signage, album cover design, book publishing, and about 17 other visual languages. When a client brief arrived, she wasn't starting from scratch. She was pattern matching against this vast internal library of visual solutions, cultural references, and historical precedents. Gary Klein, the psychologist who studies expert decision-making, calls this recognition-primed decision-making. Experienced professionals in complex domains don't analyze multiple options systematically like beginners do. They rapidly assess situations by recognizing patterns from accumulated experience. The decision looks instant, but it's drawing on thousands of hours of preparation. That's why Scher can sketch a logo in minutes that works brilliantly, while a junior designer might spend weeks and produce something mediocre. It's not talent, it's compound expertise. So what can we actually learn from this? 3 specific principles that transfer beyond graphic design. First, invest heavily in foundational knowledge that seems inefficient short-term. Scher didn't just study design, she consumed culture obsessively. Museums, theater, books about history and politics, urban exploration, typography from the 1920s, Victorian advertising, contemporary street art. Most of this wasn't directly applicable to any specific project, but collectively, it created this deep well of cultural references and visual patterns she could draw from instantly. The business application? Whatever your domain, go deep and broad simultaneously. If you're in product development, don't just study your category. Study behavioral psychology, design history, adjacent industries, cultural trends. That knowledge compounds. Years later, when you need a rapid decision, you're not starting from zero. You're synthesizing accumulated understanding. Second, narrow positioning creates premium value that breadth cannot match. After her public theater breakthrough, Scher could have expanded into every design category. Instead, she doubled down on cultural institutions. This created a flywheel effect. Each high-profile cultural project attracted similar clients, deepening her expertise and reputation in that specific niche. Compare this to generalist designers competing on price and availability. Scher competes on being the obvious choice for a specific client type. The framework here is what strategists call finite strategy. You can't be excellent at everything, so choose where you'll be excellent and ruthlessly say no to everything else. Even lucrative opportunities outside your strategic focus dilute your positioning. Third, build systems that enable expression rather than constraint. Scher's identity systems don't give clients rigid logo placement rules and restrictive color specifications. They provide frameworks, typographic approaches, compositional principles, color relationships that allow variation while maintaining coherence. Her Citibank identity created a modular system that could adapt across hundreds of applications while staying recognizable. This anticipated contemporary thinking about responsive, adaptive brands working across countless digital and physical touchpoints. The leadership lesson extends beyond design. When you're creating organizational systems, brand guidelines, operational procedures, strategic frameworks, build in flexibility and judgment rather than rigid rules. Give people principles and boundaries that enable good decisions rather than scripts that constrain them. Systems should enhance creativity and adaptation, not suppress it.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
Here's what connects all three principles. They're all long-term plays that look inefficient short-term. Consuming culture broadly doesn't show immediate ROI. Turning down lucrative work to narrow your positioning feels financially risky. Building flexible systems takes more upfront effort than creating rigid rules. But compound over time, and these approaches create defensible competitive advantages that fast-following competitors can't replicate. One more thing worth mentioning, because it's relevant to anyone navigating organizational politics or building a personal brand within larger structures. Scher has stayed at Pentagram for 35 years, despite numerous opportunities to start her own firm or join larger organizations. That long-term commitment to a partnership model reflects strategic thinking about platforms versus independence. Pentagram gives her stability, business infrastructure, global network, and brand association that individual practice couldn't provide. But she maintains creative independence and personal brand within that structure. It's the best of both worlds, entrepreneurial freedom with institutional resources. That balance is increasingly relevant for executives building careers within corporations, while maintaining personal brands and external options. So let's distill this into something you can actually use. 3 quick takeaways. First, speed through preparation, not shortcuts. When you need to make rapid decisions, you're either guessing or drawing on deep reserves of accumulated knowledge. Invest in the reserves. Consume broadly in your domain. Build pattern recognition over years so you can execute confidently in moments. Second, narrow your positioning ruthlessly. Identify where your distinctive capabilities meet market need, then double down. Say no to work outside your strategic focus, even when it's lucrative. Specialization creates pricing power and reputation that generalists can't match. Third, build systems that provide frameworks for good judgment, rather than rules that eliminate judgment. Whether it's brand guidelines or operational procedures, enable expression within boundaries rather than constraining creativity. The bottom line? In a business culture obsessed with moving fast and disrupting everything, maybe the real competitive advantage is moving deliberately and building expertise that compounds over decades. Scher's been doing this for 50 years, and she's still producing work that makes younger designers jealous. That's not luck. That's strategy. Thank you for listening to Nucleus. You can show our podcast team some love with 5 stars and a follow. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Grep News. Tamez.